Welcome to Midstream Reading Series. So welcome. I just want to welcome you. A little note, there's a bath. The restrooms are down the hall this way and around if you need that. I'm Diane Jarvenpaugh, your host for tonight, and there is a tradition for Dave Show's Midstream Reading Series is to go around the room and tell us your name and what your connection might be to writing, whether it's you're a poet or a reader or a teacher or whatever you want to share. So I think we'll start here.
Me?
Yeah.
My name is Jane Dickerson, and like many people in this room, I also write poetry. Anything else you want to know? I attended Red Loaf last August, and I've just recovered from that experience. I have a manuscript almost together that I'm going to start sending around.
Wow, great.
So,
Congratulations.
and this is my friend.
Yeah, I'm Rita Moe, and I write poetry, and I read it too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Paul Mattis, and I'm a poet and the keeper of the Midstream website.
And a host.
I'm Lauren Neamy. I'm a storyteller and a poet. So
I'm Christine Mounts. I am also a poet by night, and I'm the co-founder of the American School of Storytelling, and I do IT by day.
I'm Naomi Cohn, and I write stuff that sometimes I call poetry and sometimes prose.
I'm Karen Herring. I mostly write prose, has been nonfiction, and right now I'm working on historical fiction. Glad to be here for some poetry.
I'm Karen Sandberg. I write, and I have a poetry book coming out in April of 24.
Oh,
And I'm with the Northwood Women Poets Pension.
And I'm Susan Thurston, and I'm a writer of all forms.
I'm Clarence White, and Diane told me to be here.
Thanks, Clarence.
I'm Jim Lundfesti, 79, and I'm thinking I'm an official geezer. And I'm a world famous poet skipping the world famous. And it got away from me again.
I'm Narita Jackson. Glad to be here. I'm a poet.
I'm Katie Ganfield. I'm a nature writer and essayist.
I'm Cindy Leonhardt. I'm a poet and I write fiction, and I also teach.
I'm Erin Sharkey. I like to ignore genre distinctions, and I teach writing with Minnesota Prison Writing.
I'm Patrick Vale Hansen. I'm a poet and fiction writer, and I'm reading here next month.
Ooh.
Thank you so much. Welcome. So, let's see. On this day in 1928, Anne Sexton was born. So I thought I'd just read a little poem of hers called Words. Be careful of words, even the miraculous ones. For the miraculous, we do our best. Sometimes they swarm like insects and leave not a sting, but a kiss. They can be good as fingers. They can be as trusty as the rock you stick your bottom on. But they can be both daisies and bruises. Yet I'm in love with words. They are doves falling out of the ceiling. They are 6 holy oranges sitting in my lap. They are the trees, the legs of summer, and the sun, its passionate face. Yet often they fail me. I have so much I want to say, so many stories, images, proverbs, but the words aren't good enough. The wrong ones kiss me. Sometimes I fly like an eagle, but with the wings of a wren. But I try to take care and be gentle with them. Words and eggs must be handled with care. Once broken, they are impossible things to repair.
Fantastic.
And Clarence White is a writer, typewriter, poet, curator, arts administrator, ice skating instructor, and a former bookseller at the Hungry Mind bookstore. His publications are included in several editions of the St. Paul Almanac, Susan Valley Review, the Cortland Review, Poetry in the Windows, Barstow and Grand, and Public Art Review. His essay, Smart Enough for Ford, appears in the anthology Blues Vision, African American Writing from Minnesota. He works in essay when he believes that conversation is possible, and in poetry when he is less hopeful. He is the co-creator of the 2016 and 2017 Banville Walk reading series and Silverwood Park's 2014 Art on Foot. He is a past Gibbons Foundation Retreat Fellow, a recent alum of the Loft Literary Center Mentor Series Fellow, and was a finalist for minarts.org Flash Fiction Contest Mini-Stories. He is the Associate Director of the East Side Freedom Library and lives in St. Paul. Please welcome Clarence White.
I hope you can see.
I hope I can see.
We can fix it.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see. These are relatively new glasses, so hopefully they'll work. There's a place called Veiled Typewriter, which has about a month of life left in it.
No.
Yes.
What do we do about that?
Well, there is Spectrum Office Systems on Front in St. Paul. So they can fix typewriters as well, but they don't sell any typewriters. So Mark at Vail was getting rid of typewriters, and I found one really cheap, but it's right now my favorite typewriter. It's probably about 100 years old, and I love the way it types, but it's very small. But I wanted to start out with something short, just because I think that's what you're supposed to do. On the border of heaven, this map of the world traces a story I pave with pen, mighty forge between balm and bluster and dotted eye, deceptive pause, powder, fingers, smudge, innocence, tease of Eden, daydream, gaze from underbelly grumblings, tease of morsels. Someone salivates over hearts eaten out, written in blood, ink of Satan and sacred. My unsteady hand draws this line, uneasy between the two. An invention of phrase, God damn, welding together heaven and earth with quill pen, unsteady hand, hopes to draw right kind of love, scribed on the borders of hell. This is, I have this idea that maybe people will like my poems better if I title them after old popular songs or kind of like that. And maybe I'll get a little bit of grace. So I think that happened with this one, but I'll do it. It's a little lighter than the last one, so we'll go with this. It's called Moonlight Dance. I wrap my body around you, and my limbs vibrate with tang that rings in my ears. Echo I will not forget as I color the shape of your body. Brush my hands down the subtle curves, comb through brown braided locks, strings of music, in tune with the night air. I do not mind being lost. There is a band playing behind me, leads me to starry stillness, crickets, and the slumber of the city in which I met you, where I love, live, follow the tracks of unseen neighbors. They spy us, smile, but the buzz in our dance, tangled limbs swing, sway, backbone slips away down slopes, under and over. They wonder if this music could ever be made again. I had a pretty decent summer. I was at the Northwoods Writers Workshop and got to study with Ross Gay. And then the following week, I went out to Boulder to Naropa University and their summer writing program and studied with Tongo Ice and Martin.
Wow.
And it helped. So, I have a few. I have a few new tools. I think they're kind of not concrete tools, but they're in there somewhere. I have to keep exercising them, and hopefully I can make another trip this summer. This one is called I Want to Wear Myself Out. Other thing to add. So we're writers, and it's like, how do we write? Well, some of us do everything longhand, some of us work on a computer, and some of us work on typewriters. If you don't have a typewriter, talk to me. I can hook you up. Seriously.
What do you got?
My friend Katie has 200 typewriters. She used to have 50. So lots of different things. But this one, I'm the associate director at the Eastside Freedom Library, and we had an event, and I was watching the screen for questions that were coming into our virtual audience, and was kind of bored because nothing was coming in, and someone else was asking a question, and I had a pencil and paper, and I wrote it out by longhand, which I don't usually do because I can't read my writing, hence the typewriters, but this came from that. It's called I Want to Wear Myself Out. Excuse me. I want to wear myself out in the spring fields, summer sun, the light as my feet get heavy, eyelids begin to feel the weight of the day, hide from us the longing, save something for the next turn of the world. I want to ruin my appetites for the toil, for the thirst on my back, under his thumb, fist, heel, boot, baton thump of the man who wants to see my heart weep, hope flutter, just long enough to make me spend my last pence on the last fool's glint. I want to run so fast through the daylight, my brown skin will make the stars smile in the noon hour, the moon blush and the wind die of jealousy. I will weather my own ravines into the land for loving rains to bring streams to life without thought of mill or barge or dam. This river was made by songs, by its kinfolk who believe in it, know it runs forever like I want. I want to run forever, like forgiven installment payments of the wages of sin, as if they were not on my ledger, like entropy is not a thing, like we did not run the lakes and the creeks dry, like I did not wear my bones brittle on the factory floor under buzzing lights so dark I lost my soul. I want to run and sing and dance and drink until I am full. I want to grow weary with you. Let's see. Okay. Just being able to spend time with other writers and just making the space to think about craft. I wish I would have had more. I'm very busy and I didn't have as much time to dedicate to the Law for Mentorship program as I wish I had, but I still have a cohort that is a great group of people. Katie's here, so I will see more of them hopefully on Tuesday. It'll probably be warm, which will be cool. But it's sort of like I've been able to sort of take steps up in craft, and I appreciate that. This is a piece that I think came directly out of my time in the Law of Mentorship. So it's called Contract with America. And I think this is the one that was is about to be published in Barstow and Gray, and there's a reading next Wednesday in Eau Claire. So if you want to go to Eau Claire, a place called the Lakely, I'll be reading this there. So, Contract with America. In a slave's bargain, I agree to be born already dead. Field songs sung over my body. I do not have to open my mouth, not even to feed zombies mistaken for fool, monster, terrorist, dupe, whose vision is blurred. I wrestle myself awake, shake loose the smothered air around me like red ink from the official story never dries on this trap, snapped on my brother's neck. This, my uneasy treaty, broken, and lingers in clapboards like dead mouse miasma. Negro spirituals knock down walls, leave skeletons waiting to be weighted with headstone echoes of silence reverb off monuments. The song I sing interrupted with gasp. I am rendered pre-verbal. Checking the clock. I'll do this one next. This one is lighter too, I guess, I think, maybe. Tension. I watch the sun kiss the horizon. It is a long, slow kiss. Lingers like it never tasted the hills, like this ball of fire, ball of love, loses its breath in amazement. One long sigh, gasp, moan, inaudible amid the trees, in the lakes, in the flower-filled mountains, dips, hovers, slowly dissolves into meniscus, buoying the whole day on its surface tension. If I'm patient, I can see the whole rotation of the earth, feel the reverberations of every bomb, weights of terror behind every gun that rumbles under sleeping pillows. Somewhere, everywhere, sleeping beauties, afraid to breathe, silently hoping for her belongings to find a new home and not lose another sun in the darkness. I lay my body on this hill, absorb the warmth, the murmur and hum, a song of the winds and tug of the moon's gravity, sloping graves of ancestors and bones unknown. All this before and after the big star hides its lamp under mounds, making it warm for the next trek. Wake this sleeping beauty from behind horizon, look forward to another day. I think I have time for one more. This one is short. So, sorry, Sinead O'Connor. You can ask me about that later. This one is called Sun Brother. He turned in the space, whole body, hands, arms, feet, torso, that evil pelvis, slicing circles in the air, around and around, like figure skater, ballerina, like a top or whirly toy, full of perpetual motion, making his own music, his own wind and motion, strange, smooth percussion of arms and legs and desire made of nothing but sweet air. The music stops and everyone notices all the white girls crashing in lost orbits, white boys alternately hiding in corners or goofing on disco, too black, too gay, too much. Who let him in here, they ask. And now we must pick a new prom king.
Thank you, Clarence. Aaron Sharkey is a writer, arts and abolition organizer, cultural worker, and film producer based in Minneapolis. She is the editor of A Darker Wilderness, Black Nature Writing from Soil to Stars. Aaron is a founding co-op member of the Fields at Root Springs, a retreat and respite space in central Minnesota, and then the co-founder with Junauda Petrus of an experimental arts collective called Free Black Dirt. Sharkey is a film producer, recently working on Sweetness of Wild, an episodic web films project, and also Small Business Revolution, which explored challenges and opportunities for Black-owned businesses in the Twin Cities in the summer of 2021. Sharkey has received fellowships and residencies from the Loft Mentor Series, Gibbons, Penumbra Theater, Coffee House Press, Bill Museum of Natural History, Black Visions, Headwaters, and the Jerome Foundation. She has an MFA in creative writing from Hamline University and teaches with the Minnesota Prison Writing Workshop. Please welcome Aaron Sharkey.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. All right. You hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna read a little from A Darker Wilderness, which is a collection that came out on Milkweed Editions in February of this year. It has been a whirlwind. This is the third Unity Church in the country I've been to. I've been able to talk with lots of folks. And I've read once many years ago with Midstream, so I'm happy to be back. The collection.
Get a little closer to the mic if you can, thanks.
Sure. I forget about it, so remind me.
Yeah.
So the collection is a group of original lyric and personal essays about nature. Each of them is anchored by an archival object, in part because I really like research and I like history, but also to emphasize the ways that Black folks have been impactful and in relationship stewarding nature since before America was America. So at the heart of the book is the thesis that nature isn't neutral, and neither is the archive or history. So I'm going to read from my essay in the collection, which I'll show you. This is the object for my essay, which is Benjamin Banneker's almanac from 1795. And it's called An Urban Farmer's Almanac, a 21st Century Reflection on Benjamin Banneker's Almanacs and Other Astronomical Phenomena. And the way it's organized is that my favorite part of a farmer's almanac is the best days calendar. I think it's fascinating. It's sort of like astrology for farmers. And so I wanted to let y'all know what the best days are for the next couple days. So today is the best day to get married, so do it today or tomorrow. And this weekend, it's a good time to cut your hair if you want to slow it from growing. It's a good day to host a party or entertain your friends. It's a good day to can anything, fruit, vegetables, jam, jellies. And then also a good day to prune trees.
Yeah, okay.
That's your assignment for the week. This is a very weird thing. So I started by imagining what an urban best days calendar looks like, what an urban farmer might look at, because I think that an urban place also has its own natural rhythms. So you'll see those punctuated throughout. It's a lyric essay, and so it's weaving in and out stories around my own Christian foundations, and a time when I left Minnesota to live in Buffalo, New York, to work on an urban farm. And I did that because I was invited to leave the Christian college that I was at because I'm gay. And so, yeah, I moved there heartbroken and on the heels of, I was working on Paul Wellstone's staff at the time, so it was like a part-time. But, so the beginning is like heartbreak, you'll see that if you get the book, but I'm gonna jump it. We're starting on September 27th. The best day to use your food stamps, to go downtown to apply for Section 8, to buy cigars at the corner store, to walk down to the river to fish with your nephew. Summer's morning chores become fall's after school chores. The farm is quiet until the teenagers arrive, bent-backed and weary from their day, setting off on tasks, relieved for the familiarity of routine, for labor with their hands and the large muscles of their backs, for taking their time. Today in the neighborhood, it might be the best day to put your car up on blocks, to put your body between the metal workings and the concrete, to drain the oil, to use tools. Antonio always volunteers for chicken coop duty. He likes the quiet. He used to be afraid, but now he pushes their stubborn bodies aside and away from the heat lamp. In the hushed whisper, he assures the brightly colored hens and thanks them for their warm gift, Easter egg-hued eggs, their biological instinct. Clucking, though now forgetful and unworried, the birds wander out of the coop and towards the compost pile. The boy knows about duty. At home, he is responsible for getting his sister to the bus after picking out the pieces of her uniform, the khaki pants and navy polo for the charter school, embroidered on the chest, and brushing her ratty hair, forcing an elastic band around it. He sometimes makes a couple of eggs. Sometimes he takes a couple of eggs home and cracks them in a big blue bowl and bakes slices in it to make her French toast. But she usually drops syrup down her front, so most days the menu is peanut butter, toast, or cereal. July 3rd, best day to declare your independence, to make a fire, to show your colors. The neighborhood starts to smell like sulfur back in June. Now the night is startled awake by the whir and crack of a fountain of lights. Kids throw explosives under the cars passing down Rhode Island Avenue. The city canceled their display downtown and in Front Park because of the cost of overtime for police officers. So, lights on the next block, a green gash in the darkness, a spray of purple and smoke on the horizon for weeks on end. April 15th, Best day to get your edges laid, to wear your house shoes to the curb while the babies board the bus, huge backpacks on their tiny backs, to set traps. Neighbors come at night and sit like they did in rice paddies, squat and low. They like our bok choy the best. As payment for this gleaning, they allow us to watch over the fence where they have fashioned, by hanging fence pieces overhead, a suspension system for 3-foot-long shiny green melons, fruit for which we do not have a name, fruit not meant for the hardiness of the stone, seeds gripped in their palms, crossing the oceans, germinated. And an old man who lives down the street walks past each day on his way to or from his errands, until one day he stops and waves over the teens and tells them how he carried seeds in his pocket when he came over from Sicily, how he still harvests those pears and apples in the backyard, even after his wife went to be with God. He crosses his heart and kisses his thumb. A Dorito bag tumbleweed rolls end over end. A shiny flag holds tight to a wooden paint stick that marks where the black rim heirloom tomatoes end and the black cherry heirlooms begin. Wrapped around a row marker is a weave, ratty black hair, ripped violently in a tussle, the woman's face Vaseline and her earrings handed to a friend. The catalpa tree hurls her long, pear-shaped seed pods towards the warm earth. Ambitious and ill-prepared for childbirth, most of her babies won't live. Sure, there are squirrels and aphids and mites and lacewigs, and one summer there were days of bloated rat bodies escaped from the meal of green foam poison to die belly up in the sun. But the 8-year-old boys who come wielding sticks, imagining, like boys do, other lands and other times, their feet trampling rows of beans, are the worst, because you can't blame them. The city park that sits across the street is not for them. The park is broken glass and condoms, not a place to imagine someplace else. Some believe Banneker was descended from the Dogon people, who knew of Saturn's rings, had counted moons, and had identified the Sirius and Digitera and Sorghum stars. That perhaps his kin had survived the horrors of the belly of the ship from the land the Portuguese called Costa de Pimenta, Pepper Coast. That his name is derived from Banca for his grandfather, or from Banca for the place in West Africa that would later be called Liberia for its promise of liberation for Americans formerly enslaved. He wrote his first almanac and ephemeris in 1892, followed by 5 more years of almanacs, which featured natural and scientific writing such as tide tables, weather forecasts, and solar and lunar eclipses and growing schedules, as well as political commentaries, poetry, and proverbs, including one proposal for a Department of Peace, which I think we should bring back. A number of almanacs feature best days calendars, chronicling in relation to the moon's phases, which day provide the ideal conditions for different activities. As an example, the best days calendar in 2020, Old Farmer's Almanac notes that April 23rd is the best day to cut your hair to encourage it to grow, to color it, or to harvest above ground crops than any other day that month. The period when the dark face of the moon fills up with light to fullness is the time to do activities requiring strength and fertility in order to make things grow. If you want to slow growth or to harvest a thing growing too quickly, the waning moon, April 23rd, say, is the best. The hood has best days too. Days at the beginning of the month when wit comes through, and days when money needs to stretch, when we share our bounty without needing to be asked. The Haudenosaunee or Longhouse people, the stewards of this land, Western Europe, looked to the sky and told of a woman there who took her sons, the moon and the stars, and nursed them on her breasts. She is the one who placed the light in the darkness. How does light and observation work in the hood? Does an urban area have its own rhythms, its own calendrical energy? Measure the time between the Puerto Rican Day Festival, this neighborhood's own red, white, and blue, the teams clamoring over each other, climbing the grease pole, their race to the top, to the sausage, The day the snowflakes tumble after gathering in narrow, mysterious clouds over the lake, blanketing the city in a quiet stillness. You can't see stars from the urban farm. The moon shrinks and grows over weeks, from a fingernail clipping to gone, a yawning blackness, a timid brightness, a plump growing orb, only to yo-yo again. Can you see the future in a starless sky? There are 12 houses in the zodiac. The zodiac is also a part of this, so to speak. My sun, Neptune, and ascendant are in the first house. My moon in the 11th. Different things happen in each of the houses. In one, you can learn communication, and another, the management of resources. The makeup of and movement through one's astrological neighborhood helps the student notice what parts of life are being called into focus. In lots of areas of Buffalo, houses stand vacant. On Massachusetts Avenue, storefronts and houses were long unoccupied and now have ghosts. A haunting emptiness, missing teeth in the mouth of a neighborhood, a rotten cavity. We sowed a garden in one of those cavities. April 10th, best day to string extension cords to your neighbor's house, to tag your name on a vacant park building, to graft and pollinate. On the first day of summer, as they head out for their first tasks, to weed, to turn, to dig, these Black kids will inevitably say, I ain't no slave, miss. I ain't no picking any slave, and who can blame them, really? Farmers wear overalls and ride horses and live in houses next to red barns. Their cows are named Millie, and the farmers eat fresh baked apple pie that is cooled in a windowsill by the breeze that billows through white sheets on the line. Farmers are white, and these teenagers know that people who were enslaved, aside from being beaten and raped and humiliated and sold and purchased and taken away from their mothers and crammed into the belly of ships and forced to deny each other and learn the Bible and forget the language of their lullabies. Excuse me. I'm a crybaby, and they surprise me all the time. They slaved on farms. Enslaved people bent low and turned their backs to the blazing sun. May 2nd, best day to collect cans, to fill a shopping cart with one wheel that spins, to push the rattling cage to Tops Market, to crush them for 5 cents a piece. There are others who look more like them, who watch the fields dry up, crack in every direction, and run red with blood, before leaving the dream of sustenance farming for the refugee camp, for the plane, for settlement in an ice-cold city, here in another country, for a new name and a new birthday, January 1st, on their green cards. One kid thought the Underground Railroad was really underground. Enslaved people like moles with squinting eyes. They would chug and scream the violence of metal on metal and sing to the moon they could not see. A family of moles is called a labor. You could read more about stuff like that. I'll just end with 2 more best days. August 27th, best day to crack the hydrant and let water make rainbows in the sun. Let it clean everything it can reach and leave the pavement shiny and black. November 2nd, best day to take the man from a few blocks over up on his offer to breed his blue-nosed pit bull with yours.
Thank you, Erin. Lauren Namey has spent 45 years as a professional storyteller, creating, collecting, performing, teaching, and writing about what it means to be human, with audiences of all ages in urban and rural settings. In 2016, he was recipient of the National Storytelling Network's Lifetime Achievement Award. He is the founder of the American School of Storytelling, offering online and in-person classes and workshops on traditional, personal, and in-person classes and workshops, on traditional, personal, and business stories. He is the co-author with Elizabeth Ellis of the critically acclaimed Inviting the Wolf In, Thinking About Difficult Stories, on the value and necessity of the stories that are hard to hear and harder to tell. and the author of 2 award-winning books on crafting narrative, The New Book of Plots, and Point of View, and The Emotional Arc of Stories, which he co-authored with Nancy Donaval. His collection of non-traditional ghost stories, What Haunts Us, won a 2020 Midwest Book Awards for sci-fi, horror, fantasy, paranormal fiction. And in 2022, A Breviary for the Lost, his poetic memoir of 7 years in a Catholic religious order, was published. His newest work is Circus Rex. Please welcome Lauren Miami.
So I'm going to do a little bit of each, from Breviary for the Lost, mostly because I'm looking for a particular poem. Oh, that's a nice one, but that's not the one I was looking for. Because I got reminded of it, so here we go. With Brother S. Charles. Pointing to the bones of something, a fox perhaps, or a large cat, he said, form follows function. Look at the length of the leg bone, the curve of joint, the spine, the whole bred to hunt. Long strides, lithe, and then swivel, turn. I could imagine all that, but not until I let go of the beauty of the bones themselves. The ankle bone connected to the leg bone connected to the knee bone connected to the thigh bone, like sculpted alabaster, saying, pick me up. Make a flute that I might howl again. Or a beater upon a stretched skin, replicating my pulsing heart, my footfall through the forest, that I may live after living as does all we eat. One spent feeding another, one flesh given over to satisfy another whose hunger is unbated. And then so this starts off in 1965 when I enter the Christian Brothers religious order. And it goes, the last poem in here is probably written at the start of the pandemic. And it covers mostly a lot, it has an interesting structure because all the poems on one side of the page are in the first person. And on the other side of the page, in the third person, are footnotes and commentaries on the poems. So here I'm going to read, this is called At LaGuardia. Waiting for a flight, I had a Caesar salad and a dry martini and wept as I actually tasted it. Or maybe it was my allergies or the fact that I am going to die before I'm ready. Before every last I love you or holding close, no matter that we all have to die in the end. I am counting the days saying, there it is, like the grunt in Tim O'Brien's The Things That They Carried, telling the newly arrived, you can't change what won't be changed. And death is one of those things. Yours, mine, ours. The only question worth asking is not where or when, but what did I bring to the world to make this life worth the living? Angie, the waitress, brought me a second vodka, off the books, asking me if there was anything else she could do to make my day better. And I replied, do you like working here in Terminal C? She smiled and said her father thinks she's nuts, serving strangers all day. But if food makes us happy, why shouldn't she bring that joy? And on hearing that, I added another $5 to her tip. This is what life has become for me, giving away that which has no value when the curtain falls. And here's the footnote for that. There was a year he was going to memorial services every month. When he looked at his hands, they were his father's hands before the old man had his second stroke. No matter that his father was 92 when he left this realm, he, the son, 30 years younger, genetics is destiny, he said to himself as he looked at his palm and tried to read his own lifeline. And then I'm going to So this started off as an actual memoir. In 1983, I was the ringmaster and tour manager for the Circle of Water Circus for Heart of the Beast, and going from the headwaters of the Mississippi to New Orleans. And when I started to write the memoir 20-some years ago, it was pretty clear to me that the facts were unbelievable. And so in order to smooth it over, I reached down into the realm of mythology and fantasy and storytelling, and this is the result. And it has a very peculiar voice, as you'll see in just a moment. Chapter 3, Dr. Buzz testifies. I suppose it is only natural that you would wonder how I came to this. When did I fall under the spell of painted canvas and colored lights strung beneath a warm summer sky? That story begins in a far country called Texas. A country so flat and mean that I tried to get out of it from the moment I saw a map and could measure the distance from where I was to anywhere else. The first time I knew what truly different looked like, I was walking along the county fair midway with the smell of sawdust, grease, and cotton candy, the smell of sweat and cologne from bottles reserved for Saturday night hanging in the tepid air. I might have been Paul on the road to Damascus. Lord, what a revelation. Struck dumb with wonder, I was witnessing another world previously unimagined, and when finally made manifest, fiercely present. Each booth offered the promise of pleasure and another way to fail. The rows of plates with a thin coat of oil that heartbroken coins skipped across. The stacked bottles waiting for a lopsided baseball to make them shiver, shake, but not fall. The walls of pink bears are perpetual come on to try again. I was taken as if in rapture by the sight of the crowd, the men dressed in their summer weight short-sleeved shirts and the fresh-faced girls with their tease the boys dresses strolling arm in arm along the trail of temptation. I was seeing something I knew nothing about, and yet I felt as if I had come home. Every cheap trick and garish color sent a shiver up my spine. I could hear its tinsel heart happily beating nickels out of the hands of my wild-eyed contemporaries, hanging on to their mother's hand, and dollars out of men too eager not to be taken in by such nonsense. I could imagine the kisses stolen from local girls and the fist-fight blood when their boyfriends caught them behind the booth with their lipstick smeared and their skirts riding up the greasy jeans of some carnival Romeo. I was 10, maybe 11 at the time, but my fate was sealed. I knew what I wanted more than anything in the world when I heard the come hither lilt of the pitchman's platter. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah! Step right up. Come closer, don't be shy, you don't want to miss it. You don't want to say that you did not partake of what I have here. The rare, the beautiful, the precious grail that makes all new. That is what you have longed for, have sought after, what you have only dreamt of, what you did not believe was possible, the eighth wonder of the world, ancient or modern. What did it matter that it wouldn't be half of what it was cracked up to be? What strange vision of paradise had I expected after listening to some old guy, a beer belly hanging over a too tight belt, the shabby pastel suit a size too big or too small, squinting at me in the cotton candy light and taking the cigar out of his mouth just long enough to say he'd be glad to discount the price if I brought a parent or guardian along? Did I really expect to see a two-headed man from Borneo, the famous Fuji mermaid wiggling in salt water, or a woman with an hourglass figure turning into a snake before my eyes? That was what the illustrated walls proclaimed, but you had to believe enough or want to pay the price to see what was inside. Maybe I did believe, but knew even then that at that tender age, that what was behind the curtain wasn't the fact of it. It wasn't the bait and switch that made the trick work, but the desire to see what was not there. Okay, more likely though, I could not have said it then, the desire not to see what was already there. The problem of truth was far from my mind at that moment. Boy, howdy, I was all about the wonder of illusion, the caprice of gullibility satisfied. I wanted every doubt to be shamed by spectacles so I could say that by all that was holy on Sunday, that this was worth the knowing. Did I imagine that they wouldn't eat or sleep, that they never read the newspaper or laughed at some corny joke? It would be several years before I got to thinking about what the rubber band contortionists, the sword swallowers, the fire eaters with tongues of flame did when they stepped off the stage to slip behind the tents. By the time I did think about it, I was already in the trade and knew the answers applied to me as well as to any sideshow turn. By then, I was halfway past gone. The midway of that first youthful exploration was crowded with hopes and fears, rough canvas, a universe exploding with giddy possibility, all riotous colors and calliope siren song. The tent banners presented the life curves of impossibly well-endowed women bursting forth from their too tightly painted dresses, muscled giants and men grappling with rats the size of a car. Even the crudest illustrations promised something that was magical, exotic, and certainly not the commonplace of farm chores, Sunday church pews, or the dinner table conversation. What followed when the precious coin came out of my fearful grip, when the admission was paid, when I entered the murky darkness, was not just another guy making a buck or a woman who was more interested in the meatloaf in the oven and the trailer behind the tent than any promised satisfaction of my wonder. In that first blush of first love, I only saw what was different, and it was the difference that would always be mine. Call me Isaac after the binding, though Pa would have called me a fool if he had known the life I craved instead of the one he had ordained as fitting sacrifice on the stone of dull labor. To his mind, I should have recognized the midway as a hollow promise and denied my joy. If I was a good God-fearing Christian, I should have turned my back to the carnival devil, returned to the plow, and pew a better man for swallowing the bitter truth. Far from it. I was already an apostate and would always be. I saw my future in the sleight of hand, and before that, I would become the man in the rumpled suit, slick back hair beneath the battered fedora, smoking a $5 cigar while I rolled the vagaries of the mother tongue through a handheld mic. Say, Carrot Top, you look like a smart fellow. I'll bet $1 I can tell you where you got your shoes. Sure I can, chump change, but it's so easy I feel bad taking you for more than $1. Tell you what, I can tell you where you got your shoes, the very city and street. Can't be wrong, won't be wrong. You're a bright young man who appreciates useful knowledge, willing to make that small wager to learn how I know this. Well, thank you. I'll just hold that $1 now and give it back with one of mine if I'm wrong. There you go. Just put your old George Washington next to mine. Here it comes. Tell you true as your God is my witness. Here it is. You got your shoes on your feet right here on the midway of the county fairgrounds. Thank you. I'll take a look now from I can see from the look on your face that for a very small price, you have been educated. For your tuition in the school of useful truth, I say, now move along.
Thank you, Lauren. So this is the time of the Midstream event where we pass the basket around. This is a tradition, and it's to honor the church who generously lets us use this room, and so we just want to honor them a little bit. So I'm going to pass that. Susan Thurston is a dedicated writing coach and teacher who believes the personal narrative has the power to change lives. As a marketing and communications professional with roots in journalism, Susan has served in leadership roles at St. Olaf College, Carleton College, and the University of Minnesota. Her first published novel, Sister of Grendel, received the 2022 Catalyst Story Institute Literary Award and the 2023 Midwest Book Award in Fiction Fantasy. Her essays and poetry are published widely in journals, anthologies, and periodicals. She currently serves as a communications coordinator for the Minnesota Department of Health. Please welcome Susan Thurston.
I got the money in the basket just in time. So, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Can you hear me well enough?
Yes.
I'm right in here and practically eating the microphone.
Yeah.
That's usually the way, right? Just don't pop my peas too much. I spent some time in radio, so I know how some of these things work. Thank you, Diane, for calling, and of course I do whatever she asks because she's that brilliant kind of woman and creative, and it's an honor to share this space tonight with Aaron and Lauren and Clarence. So I'm going to read a little bit from the novel Sister of Grendel, and then I'm going to be asking you all to close your eyes, which could be a very dangerous thing to ask at this point of time in the evening, because I've also embarked upon a journey of working on adapting the novel, the fiction, to a screenplay with the talented Cynthia Urick. So I'm gonna try reading it out loud, but I'll want you to close your eyes and then allow you to enter your favorite movie theater or your favorite media room and then follow along with that. All right, so we'll start with the novel. The two of you flee. You move toward a safer life, mother and daughter. He does not follow you. I have seen to that. Sequestered in my forest secluded den with these sheets of paper, this pen and ink, I will write my story. This is my final ritual of closure. Here I chronicle my life. I do not have much time. Darkness thickens around and within me. Change in my body is pronounced and sudden. I no longer wander or run with wolves. I cannot swim for days in clear lakes. All changes. The wolves who consider me a curious ally in their hunt sniff at my doorway, hoping I will join them. The old gray one with the white ears is the matriarch who watches me as I take a step toward them. She stiffs my hand and understands my pain. With a moaned farewell, she leads the pack away. Later, I hear their howling praises to the moon. I watch their shadows dance among the birch and long to be with them. I fall into a burdened sleep. In my dreamscape, I am young. I gather food in the forest with the elders, run to the sea with my brother, listen to my mother's songs, dance through our sacred labyrinth. Then I see my brother Grendel in fierce struggle with his killer, Beowulf, and I awake screaming. Exhausted and weeping, I stagger to the stream for water. I am careless with my fire, and too often it nearly burns out. From my larder, I take fennel seeds and deer marrow, grind them into a rich paste that I can eat with my fingers. Its nuttiness clears my head. My aching joints ease. I will keep writing. I am the last of my kind. I am the only one who remains of the tribe of Anna, the long-lived. My name is Risodis, sister of Grendel. Part 1, Labyrinth. My earliest memories are the certainty of an elder's embrace, the honeyed tingle of summer mead, a bleeding spread of sunrise. My mother is called Yen Heth. She stands taller than anyone else with a lean, muscular strength that speaks of protection. The others in the tribe remark that I favor her. Sun burnishes her skin and her hair glistens down her back. Glittering bright amber stones on brass loops dance from her long-lobed ears. In her eyes, I see the sky. She breathes in the evening air as if it were a delicacy that she can taste. I admire her long and thin nose, her high cheekbones, and the way she moves as if she were made of water. Running, her exquisite feet seem delicate and like sinew. When she speaks, she gestures with her hands, and they skim and dance in the air like elegant pale birds. I climb into her arms and frame her face between my hands. I search for my reflection in her eyes. Oh, you are the most beautiful thing in the world, I say. Daughter, she says, you know so little of the world. Other tribes have their temples and hold them dear. We have our labyrinth. Hear how the labyrinth came to be, says my mother Yenheth. She drapes her robe around her shoulders and settles into warm cushions, fending off the chill night air, then turns and nods toward my brother Grendel and me. Your great-grandmother Channon dreams of a path through the forest. She follows it to a place where a brilliant light flows like water. The water turns from azure to amber, from amber to emerald. It washes over her, carries her to different lands where she moves among other people and encounters different creatures. When she awakens, she keeps her eyes closed, and in her dream memory makes her way to the edge of the forest. Then she opens her eyes and discovers she has found the path, just as in her dream. The path leads her into the darkest part of the forest, yet she is not afraid and keeps moving deeper into the woods. At last she comes upon a clutch of tamarack trees encircling several large boulders. She leans against one of the rocks, and the elegant tree's branches begin to glow. The needle-thin leaves flicker. The light illuminates outlines on the rocks, hundreds of engraved pictures and inscriptions. The rocks crack and fall apart around her. She cannot breathe, cannot cry out. Music of reeds and drums fills the air and vibrates through her body until she thinks of nothing but the music, until she is the music. And in the seams of the sounds, she sees images from the future, of things yet to be. Lights swirl and flow over her, into her, through her nose, mouth, ears. The light at first tastes sweet as honey, then sour as vinegar, and she becomes ill from its potency. The lights flare out. She is lifted into the air and then dashed to the ground within. The tamarack trees have burned the ground, and the uneven stones still bear their engravings. Channon carries each stone into the village and fits them together. She refuses help from anyone. It is here, in the telling, that Grendel and I nestle in close to our mother Yenheth. She strokes her forehead, our foreheads, and chants the rest of the tale, and we join in the reciting of the familiar words until the night air thrums. Stone by stone, the labyrinth. Stone by stone, it is set. See the beasts and flying creatures, Anathians dancing, singing, some alone, some together. Each envisions as is met. When one enters the labyrinth of Channon, take its message and well consider it is well meant. Be it blessing, warning, other. All right. So this should set up what I'll move into with the script. All right? We should have this timed out. The spring day is glorious and promise. Grendel and I are young, and we leave our duties in the gardens to spend time in the labyrinth. We race each other to the entrance, and Grendel dashes ahead of me, calling back to me over his shoulder, "Just try to keep up with me. See, sister, I am stronger and faster than you." "You are not," I shriek as I run after him and into the labyrinth. As always, the engraved images enthrall me more than any youthful game. Soon I stop listening for Grendel's footfall and do not care if I catch up to him. Instead, I lean into the sounds the labyrinth offers. I find myself held by a stone on which the figures become the leaves and branches of a tree, softening and turning, flush with color, and I am wrapped and rocked gently within the now pulsing limbs. I close my eyes and drift into a soft slumber. When I awake, I find myself stretched out along the base of the wall at a corner. The sun is warm and it is quiet. I complete my journey into the labyrinth center, make my way back out, and do not encounter Grendel. I assume he simply did not want to disturb me while I was resting, and passed me on his way out. We meet again at our evening meal. I expect him to tease me about having failed to catch him in the labyrinth, but he is silent and brooding. I think nothing more about it. Days later, Grendel and I walk through the settlement and come near the labyrinth entrance again. Try to catch me this time, Grendel. I shall show you who is truly swifter and stronger. I dash toward the portal. Grendel stands fixed at the labyrinth's entrance and cries out to me, Risodus, please, come back. Don't make me follow you there. I am here. I stop just before the first turn of the wall. Come and seek me. Do not be afraid. I am not afraid, he bellows, but the rocks are so dark. The creatures, they want to devour me. They have begun to say horrible things to me. Dark? It is midday. Grendel, the labyrinth will not harm you. Come in, come toward me. The voices from the stones are not malevolent. Their images are well fit and made. Nothing will harm you. No. Grendel bolts toward me to catch me into his arms and prevent me from going any farther. They are waiting for me. They shift and move, follow me, hate me. I look into his eyes and see terror there. What is it? What happened to you? We lean against each other and lurch out of the labyrinth. I guide him to a sycamore tree where he collapses, trembling in my arms. The last time I came into the labyrinth, I saw things. We all do. That is part of the power. No, he whispers. This was different. The creatures of the walls, they told me what would become of me, and they were. He presses his head into my shoulder and lets me hold him. I try to comfort him with tender strokes and soft song at his ear. Then he hears our mother Yenheth calling for him, pushes away, leaves me alone with my confusion. The time of thirst changes everything for everyone in the valley. The rain does not come in winter. It does not come in the spring. Pomegranates and olives wither on their branches. Deer and boar roam and rummage farther away to find food. We turn increasingly to our storehouses. The small-headed live in greater numbers in the valley. They do not temper their consumption, even as food sources dwindle. Increasingly, the small-headed lift hands and fists against us over who will gather the shriveling olives from the grove or the diminishing clusters of red grapes from the vines. After each encounter, Yenheth calls the elders together and they select an ambassador who is sent to the small-headed settlement to arrive at a strained agreement. We will share, we will conserve, and we will make our way through this time of want in concert. Again and again, an agreement is set. Again and again, a small-headed hunter or gatherer breaks the pact. So, we'll shift to the screenplay now and assume that the Anathians, they continue to move, continue to try to avoid the small-headed, which is in the Beowulf myth, my interpretation of the Danes. And the Anathians to keep moving, and as the small-headed encroach, they finally ended their journey at a cliffside area, which is where the myth of Beowulf actually does. Actually, it takes me. I live with this so long, it feels like it's actually. All right, so screen direction, everything in there. Here we go. Interior, Yenheth's cavern chamber, day. Grendel and Yenheth sit at the table. She takes his empty cup, refills it with mead. Risodus sits near the fire, poking a stick into the flames to rearrange the wood. Grendel. Their songs are tuneless and their voices are those of wasps. He mimics one of the songs. Risodus and Yenheth cover their ears, wincing. Yenheth Mindless droning, Grendel. Wasps who chew upon good things and spit it all back upon themselves. That stack of stone and wood here out hall is crude and lacking any grace, as ugly inside as it is outside. What is built reflects the builder. Yenhef, who they slaughter, reflects the butcher. Grendel throws back his cup of mead. Yenhef takes his hands in hers. Yenhef. All we need to know about these small-headed, these seedlings is clear. Grendel nods. His eyes glitter with rage and tears. Exterior, sea cliff's edge, night. Grendel stands upon a full moon, under a full moon. At his feet is a dead body. Rissotus emerges from a copse of trees with a basket filled with mushrooms. Rissotus, softly. Grendel? Grendel looks at Rissotus. He kicks the body, then grasps the man's arm and twists it at the shoulder, snapping it and tearing it off. He tears off the other arm, then lifts his sword and hacks again and again at the man's head until it is severed from his body. He throws the parts like scraps into the deep cove where long-toothed and glistening giant sea brutes rise up and swallow the parts. Rissotus. I am here if you, Grendel. The time for talking is over. Grendel pushes past her and makes his way down along the rock ledges to their sea caves. Exterior, Dragon Tower, night. Guards pace back and forth in front of the tower. Grendel peers from behind a wall, then renders himself unseen. Voiceover, Elder Rissotus. I weep for my brother and long for the time when I would not have imagined him driven to such brutal acts. One of the guards is picked up and thrown into the wall. The other turns, looks about, and runs to the aid of his fallen comrade. But he is grabbed, and his head is wrenched so hard he falls forward onto his chest, and his head wrenched to look at the sky. Exterior, market, outside, Heorot Hall, day. A small child pulls on his mother's skirts. She is absorbed in selecting the best pig snout in the bunch. The mother ignores him. He pulls again, and she looks down at him. He points at a severed, bloody arm lying on the ground under another vendor's table. She screams, pulling him up into her arms. A middle-aged man steps out on the threshold of his home, holding a torch high. He calls out, Smeldor, son, where are you? Smeldor. He follows the trail and finds his teenage son's head at the base of a tree. He looks up and sees his body in the crook of the tree. He drops to his knees in horror and grief. Interior, domed labyrinth cavern, night. Yenhef has gathered the Anathians together. She has brought out the drinking horns and the honey wine is flowing. Yenhef. I have gathered us together to share the news that Hrothgar is near to breaking. I have seen his dreams. He hopes to gather his kind and take them elsewhere upon long-bodied boats. The crowd murmurs, hopeful. She is animated, more joy in her demeanor than has been witnessed in some time. Yenhef. All we need is a little more patience and more of Grendel's force applied with strategy and cunning. We have him to thank for a future without the scent of small-headed too near us. Soon their greedy dreams will be cleared from our skies. She raises the horns to celebrate Grendel, who stands resplendent in blue robes. The elders stand at the side of the gathering. They exchange glances with one another. They are uneasy. Rissotus looks at her brother as though he were a stranger.
Well, let's thank Clarence White, Aaron Shelby, Alan Lindy, and Susan Poston. Thank you all for coming. December, the Midstream readers will be, oops, I got this right. Patrick Cabello Hansel, Leslie Adrian Miller, Catherine Rauch, and JP White. So thank you for coming. Have a lovely holiday. This is the season. You're so kind to come. And there's so many books over here for people to buy, so don't be shy. That's why we're here too. Thank you so much.